What happens when your money is green, but your skin is black? In the exclusive, champagne-filled VIP lounge of Horizon Global Cruise Lines. Twin siblings Maya and Marcus Thorne are about to find out. They are young, they are successful. And they are the owners of the luxury suites 1A and 1C on deck. 1. But for one entitled passenger and a crew blinded by prejudice. That is a problem they are determined to fix. They thought they were dealing with just two kids who got lucky. They did not realize they were messing with the children of the man who owns the entire cruise line. Stay with us as we unpack the story of how one phone call turned an entire ship cruise world upside down. The Horizon Zenith. Lounge at Terminal 4 in Port Everglades was a sanctuary of calculated silence. It was a world designed to insulate its inhabitants from the frantic energy of the thousands of travelers. Just beyond its frosted glass doors, the air smelled of expensive espresso, faint gardenia, and the subtle leathery perfume of new money. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the gleaming white marble floors and the dock beyond, where a massive Horizon Global cruise ship rested like a sleeping giant dot in a quiet corner. Seated in plush midnight blue armchairs were Maya and Marcus Thorne. To the casual observer, they might have seemed out of place. They were 20 years old. Maya wore a bright blue sweatsuit from a brand only recognizable to those who followed niche streetwear, and her voluminous natural hair was tied up in a silk scarf. She was reading a thick constitutional law textbook, a highlighter poised in her hand. Marcus beside her was her mirror image in a matching bright blue sweatsuit. His locks were pulled back and he was focused on his laptop, lines of code scrolling rapidly across the screen. They were not sipping champagne. They had bottles of sparkling water and a shared plate of untouched artisanal pastries between them. They were in their own world, a bubble of quiet focus before their transatlantic voyage to Southampton. They were also, very distinctly, the only black people in the lounge. This fact was not lost on Victoria Kensington. Victoria was a woman sculpted by privilege and maintained by a ruthless esthetician. She was in her late 50s, draped in a cream-colored cashmere wrap that probably cost more than the lounge attendant's monthly salary. Her platinum blonde hair was blown into a stiff, immaculate helmet. She sat 3 alcoves over, nursing a glass of Juve Cliquot. And she had been staring at the twins for 10 solid minutes. Her stare was not one of curiosity. It was one of profound acidic annoyance. It was the look of someone who had found a fly in their soup, a crack in their porcelain world. In her mind, the Zenith Lounge was a reward, a badge of status. Their presence was a clerical error and an affront. She finally pressed the small silver call button on her side table. A moment later, Preston Clark glided over. Preston was the lead lounge attendant, a man whose entire demeanor was built on a foundation of obsequious snobbery. He wore his crisp, black Horizon Global uniform-like armor, and his smile was a weapon he deployed only for those he deemed worthy. Yes, Mrs. Kensington. More champagne. His voice was a low, confidential hum. Victoria did not look at him. She kept her eyes fixed on the twins. "Preston, what is that?" she asked, her voice dripping with disdain as she made a subtle, dismissive gesture with her chin. Preston's eyes followed her gesture. His professional smile flickered, replaced for a microsecond by a look of shared understanding. He too had clocked the twins. He too had drawn his own conclusions. They did not fit the profile. The designer sweatsuits were, to his untrained eye, just sweatsuits. Their youth and their race combined in his mind to form one word. "Unqualified. I am not sure," Madam Preston said, his voice tightening. "Perhaps they entered with a guest pass." "A guest pass." Victoria scoffed, finally turning her icy blue eyes to him. "This is the Zenith Lounge, Preston, not the public terminal. I pay over $50,000 a year for my Horizon Diamond status. I do not pay it to share my sanctuary with children from standard staterooms who have clearly wandered in by mistake." The accusation hung in the air, heavy and toxic. Preston felt a bead of sweat on his brow. Mrs. Kensington was one of their most demanding and highest-spending passengers. Her husband was a titan of industry. A complaint from her could jeopardize his upcoming promotion to ship guest services manager. I understand completely. Mrs. Kensington, Preston said, stiffening his spine. It is disruptive to the atmosphere. Please allow me to handle this. I will verify their credentials. See that you do, Victoria said, turning back to her window, supremely confident that the problem would be removed. Preston straightened his tie. He felt a surge of self-importance. He was the gatekeeper. He was the guardian of exclusivity. He marched across the marble floor, his polished shoes clicking with purpose. Maya looked up from her textbook as his shadow fell over her. "Excuse me," she said, her voice polite. "Good morning," Preston said. His voice was no longer the warm hum he used for Victoria. It was cold, flat, and skeptical. "I am going to need to see your boarding passes and your lounge credentials." Marcus did not look up from his laptop. "We already showed them at the front desk. I am aware of that." "Sir," Preston said, his eye twitching at the perceived lack of respect, "but we are conducting a random spot check. We have had security concerns. Please, your passes." This was a lie, and a flimsy one. Maya sighed, a long, weary sound she had practiced her entire life. She knew exactly what this was. She dog-eared her page and reached for her backpack. A random check, of course. She produced 2 gleaming Royal Suite boarding passes for Thorne Maya and Thorne Marcus. Deck 1, Room 1A, Room 1C. Voyage HG 102 Southampton. She also produced 2 solid black membership cards made of brushed metal. On them in simple silver engraving were their names and the words Horizon, Zenith, Circle. Preston froze. He had never seen a card like that. He was familiar with diamond, platinum, gold, but Zenith Circle. He took the cards and passes, his brow furrowed. He scanned them at his station podium. The computer beeped. The screen flashed green, displaying their information. And next to their names, a small, bright red icon he had never seen before. A shield. He felt a small pit of anxiety open in his stomach. But then he looked back at Victoria Kensington. She was watching him, her eyebrow arched, expectant. His pride, his prejudice, and his fear of her overrode the warning signal in his brain. He walked back to the twins. His face was a mask of false authority. "There seems to be a discrepancy with our system," he lied. "These passes are not clearing properly." Now Marcus looked up, his fingers stilled on his keyboard. "A discrepancy? What kind?" "I am not at liberty to discuss the specifics," Preston said, puffing out his chest. "I am afraid I will have to ask you to wait outside the lounge while we sort this out with the gate staff. It could be a ticketing error." Or he let the implication hang. A fraudulent booking. Maya's eyes flashed. "Fraudulent? Are you accusing us of something?" "I am accusing no one," Miss Preston said, his voice oily. "I am simply stating a fact. The system is not recognizing your entry. Now, if you will, please come with me. We do not want to make a scene." "You are the one making the scene, mate," Marcus said, his voice quiet but sharp. He began to close his laptop, but as he did, his thumb brushed the side, activating his phone screen. He discreetly tapped an icon. A small red light appeared on his laptop's bezel. He was now recording. "Sir, I will not be spoken to that way," Preston snapped. "I am the lounge manager. My authority is final." "Your authority is based on a computer system which you claim is malfunctioning," Maya argued, standing up. She was tall, and her sudden movement made Preston flinch. "I would like to speak to your manager." "I am the manager," he hissed. "Then you can call the Port Authority." We are not leaving our seats. The standoff thickened the air. Other passengers were now looking. Some, like Victoria, looked pleased by the drama. Others looked uncomfortable, sinking lower in their chairs. "Fine," Preston said, his face flushing red. He stalked away and picked up a phone, hissing into it. A few minutes later, a woman in a head steward uniform, Ms. Patterson, arrived. She looked flustered. Preston spoke to her in a rapid whisper. Gesturing to the twins and then more discreetly to Victoria Kensington. "Ms. Patterson approached the twins. Her smile was strained. "Good morning, folks. I am Ms. Patterson, the guest relations manager for your voyage. I understand there is a little mix-up. There is no mix-up, Maya said, crossing her arms. This man accused us of having fraudulent tickets. We showed him our passes and our membership cards. He is lying. Patterson's eyes darted to Mrs. Kensington, who was now pointedly glaring. Patterson was stuck. On one hand, the computer showed the twins were legitimate, albeit with a strange zenith status she did not recognize. On the other, Victoria Kensington was a known quantity. A diamond titanium passenger who had gotten 3 separate stewards fired in the last year. Patterson made a political calculation. Ma, single quotes him. I'm sure he did not mean to imply fraud, Patterson said, attempting to placate. But the Zenith Circle status is a new system. Our computers here in Fort Lauderdale are having trouble interfacing with it. It is a known IT issue. Another lie. Look, we are going to start priority boarding for suite guests in just 20 minutes. What I am asking is, just as a professional courtesy, if you could perhaps wait by the gate desk. It would help us de-escalate the situation here. De-escalate what situation? Marcus asked, standing up. The one he created. Because we were just sitting here. We are not moving. The impasse was total. Victoria Kensington finally stood up, her cashmere wrap falling to her elbows. This is an outrage, Preston. If they will not leave, I will. And I will be filing a formal complaint against this entire lounge. And you personally, Ms. Patterson, for failing to maintain a secure and exclusive environment. I am being harassed by these people who are clearly refusing to follow your rules. The threat landed like a bomb. Harassed. Maya's voice rose sharp and clear. We have not spoken a word to you. Your very presence is harassment. Victoria shrieked. That was enough for Patterson. Her face hardened. The choice was made. Sir, miss, she said to the twins, her voice now devoid of any warmth. I am ordering you to leave the lounge. Your access has been revoked, pending a full review. If you do not comply, I will call Port Security. Marcus held up his hands. No need for that. He slung his backpack over one shoulder. We will go. Naya was fuming. Marcus, no. This is ridiculous. It is fine, Maya, he said, giving her a look. He subtly tapped his pocket where his phone was now recording audio. Let's just get on the ship. Humiliated, they collected their things. Preston Clark watched them go, a smirk of pure triumph on his face. He smoothed his tie and turned to Victoria. My apologies for that disturbance. Mrs. Kensington, can I get you a fresh glass? You see, Preston, Victoria said, settling back into her chair. It is simple. You just have to take out the trash that the twins heard it. They were only 10 feet away. Maya stopped dead. Marcus put a firm hand on her arm. Not here, he whispered. Trust me. Not here. They walked out of the frosted glass doors, their heads held high. But the burn of indignation was a physical weight. They were left to stand in the general boarding area amongst the noise and the crowds for the next 20 minutes. Their first-class tickets feeling like a mockery. The 20 minutes they spent waiting at Gate 12 felt longer than the entire morning. They stood off to the side, conspicuous in their isolation. Passengers for voyage HG-102 Southampton were beginning to clog the terminal. A sea of tired families, eager tourists, and self-important business travelers. Maya and Marcus, having been unceremoniously ejected from the calm of the lounge, were now subjects of open curiosity. People stared. They saw 2 young black individuals dressed in expensive but casual streetwear, who had just been escorted out of the VIP lounge. The assumptions were immediate and unflattering. They heard the whispers. Must have snuck in. Thought they could get away with it. Good serves them right. Maya paced, her fists clenched so tightly her knuckles were white. I cannot believe this, Marcus. I cannot believe this. Take out the trash. She said that. He accused us of fraud. And that woman, Patterson, professional courtesy. They threw us out. They threw us out because that blonde hag did not like the look of us, Dino. Marcus said. His voice was unsettlingly calm. He was leaning against a pillar, his gaze fixed on the boarding door. His phone was in his hand, angled just right. It is all on audio, Maya. Every word audio. I want to sue them. I want to call Dad right now. No, Marcus said, his voice firm. Not yet. Let's see how far this goes. Dad always said, let them build their own gallows. Right now they are just gathering the wood. Maya let out a frustrated breath, but she nodded. Marcus was the strategist. She was the fighter. They balanced each other, but the humiliation still stung. It was a familiar sting, one they had felt countless times despite their family's wealth. It was the sting of being outliers in a world that had a very fixed, very pale-skinned image of what power and privilege looked like. Their father, Elijah Thorne, had built Horizon Global from nothing. He had started with 2 leased cargo ships in the 90s, battling systemic racism and skeptical banks, and forged an empire that now spanned continents. He had named his most exclusive invitation-only status Zenith Circle, for his children the apex of his life's work. It was a status that didn't just grant access. It triggered a series of quiet, high-level alerts to ensure his family received flawless service. Or, at least, it was supposed to. The fact that Preston's system had flagged them with a red shield, and he had still chosen to side with Victoria Kensington, was not a system failure. It was a human one. A deliberate choice of prejudice over protocol. Now boarding voyage HG 102 Southampton. A voice chirped over the PA. We would like to invite our sweet guests as well as our Diamond and Platinum members to begin priority boarding Victoria. Kensington emerged from the lounge, walking with the unhurried gait of someone who had never waited in a line. She spotted the twins by the gate, gave them a look of profound disgust, and then swept past them, handing her passport to the gate agent. Preston Clark was there standing next to the gate agent, a woman named Jessica. He had come out to oversee the suite boarding. He saw the twins, and his sneer was barely concealed. "Look who is back," he muttered to Jessica, loud enough for them to hear. "Better check their tickets twice, probably forged." Jessica, the gate agent, giggled nervously. She was clearly intimidated by the senior crew member. Maya and Marcus stepped forward and presented their passports and passes. Jessica took them, her hands trembling slightly. She scanned Maya's. Beep, green. She scanned Marcus. Beep, green.c, Maya said, her voice like ice. No discrepancy, no fraud. We just ... all right. All right? Move along, Preston snapped, stepping in front of Jessica. You are holding up the line. Get on the ship. He physically shooed them forward. Do not touch me, Maya said, yanking her arm away from his gesturing hand. Or what? Preston challenged, his face inches from hers. You will call security. Wait. They work for us. Preston, Ms. Patterson said, gliding up behind him. She had emerged for boarding. That is enough. Let them board. We will deal with them on the ship. Her words were meant to be a warning, but they sounded like a threat. Deal with us. Marcus asked, his voice deathly quiet. What exactly does that entail? Ms. Patterson gave him a smile that was all teeth. It means, sir, that we expect you to adhere to the high standard of conduct we maintain in our royal suite deck. Any disturbances, and you will be met by authorities upon arrival in Southampton. It was a clear, unambiguous threat. They were being preemptively branded as troublemakers. You are a real piece of work. You know that? Maya muttered. They pushed past the crew down the gangway. The tunnel was long and carpeted. A neutral zone between the public humiliation of the terminal and the unknown of the ship. Keep it together, Kea, Marcus murmured. We're almost there. Just get to the room. They are going to have us arrested in Southampton, Marcus. Based on what? Based on their behavior. Let them try, Marcus said, his voice hard. Just keep the camera rolling. He had slipped his phone into his shirt's breast pocket, the lens peeking out just enough. They stepped onto the Horizon Majestic. The entranceway was spacious, with a grand staircase curving up to the second level. A junior steward, a young woman with a kind face and a name tag that read Emily, greeted them. Good morning. Emily smiled. A genuine, welcoming smile. "Welcome to Horizon Majestic. Can I see your boarding passes to direct you?" They showed her, the Zenith Suites, 1A and 1C, right this way. They are absolutely our best rooms on the ship. She led them through the main deck nose. The Royal Suite deck was stunning. It was not just rooms. It was a collection of 12 private suites, each with a tall sliding door, a plush reclining armchair, and a separate side bench that converted into a full-length bed. The color scheme was muted tones of gray cream, and the signature Horizon midnight blue. "Here you are," Emily said, gesturing. "1A by the window, 1C on the aisle side. Can I get you a pre-departure beverage?" "We have champagne, fresh orange juice, just water, please," Maya said, her voice tight. "I will have the same," Marcus added. They stepped into their respective suites. The sheer luxury was, for a moment, a bomb. This was their father's design, his vision. He believed sea travel should be civilized, even beautiful. The twins, who had traveled this route dozens of times, settled in, trying to shake off the encounter. Maya stowed her backpack. Marcus sat down and angled his phone on the side table, propped up by his passport, its lens now capturing a wide shot of the corridor and the two suites. A moment later, Victoria Kensington boarded. She walked down the corridor, saw the junior steward, Emily, offering the twins their water, and stopped. "You have got to be kidding me," Victoria said, her voice loud enough to fill the quiet cabin. Emily, the steward, looked up, startled. "Mrs. Kensington, welcome aboard. You are in 2A right behind this suite." "I am not," Victoria snapped. "I am not sitting anywhere near them." "What is this?" "I had them removed from the lounge, and now they are in the suite section." "How did they even get in here?" Preston Clark and Ms. Patterson had just entered the cabin behind her. They saw the scene, and their faces darkened. "Mrs. Kensington," Preston said, rushing forward, "please keep your voice down. Let's not disturb the other passengers." "I will be disturbed." Victoria pointed a long manicured finger at Maya. "They are in the suite section." "This is impossible." "They are. They are staff, aren't they? Transfer staff. Why are they in passenger seats? Put them in the crew cabins." The accusation, so absurd and so deeply racist, hung in the air. Maya, who had been trying to follow Marcus let them hang themselves advice, snapped. "Transfer staff? Are you insane?" Maya shot back, standing up in her suite. "We are paying passengers just like you." "Well, actually, not like you. We paid. You probably used points. How dare you?" Victoria shrieked. "I will have you fired, Preston." This is what I was talking about. They are hostile. They are aggressive. I do not feel safe. This was the magic word, safe, in the post-9/11's travel industry. It was a word that granted crew nearly unlimited power. Ms. Patterson stepped forward, her face a mask of cold fury. She was done playing games. Her career was flashing before her eyes. All because of a passenger she was convinced was a con artist and another who was a vindictive. VIP. She chose the VIP. "All right. That is it," Patterson said, looking at the twins. "I warned you. Your behavior is disruptive and threatening. I am invoking my right as guest relations manager to deny you transport. We are finding you other rooms." "You are what?" Marcus said, finally standing up. "You are moving us. We are in our assigned paid-for suites." "Not anymore," Preston said with a nasty smile. "We have a sudden and urgent ship security officer requirement. We need to move you to the interior cabins on the main deck. It is a security protocol." It was the most blatant lie they had told yet. "A security officer requirement, ... Marcus repeated, his voice flat. "You are claiming we are a security threat." "I am not claiming anything, sir. I am telling you we need these suites. Now you can either walk back to interior cabins for 5E and 45F, or we can have you removed from the ship entirely. Your choice." The other suite passengers were now all watching. A man in a suit in 3C was filming with his phone. A woman in 2G was whispering to her husband. The cabin was electric with tension. We are not moving, Maya said, crossing her arms. We are not going to 45. We are not leaving this ship. We are in our seats. 1A and 1C. Fine, Patterson said. She turned to Preston. Call port police. Have them removed and cite passenger noncompliance and hostile behavior. Preston pulled out his staff radio. This is guest relations to gate. We have a code 3 situation on the suite deck. 2 noncompliant passengers in 1A and 1C refusing crew instructions. We need police assistance for immediate removal. Victoria Kensington watched. Her arms crossed, a smug, satisfied smile on her face. She had one. The junior steward, Emily, looked horrified. Ms. Patterson, wait, she whispered, pulling on the manager's sleeve. I checked their passes, their zenith circle. I think that is the CEO's family. Patterson turned on Emily, her eyes blazing. You are a junior steward. You have been here 3 months. Do not question my authority. You do not know what you are talking about. Go to the galley and stay there. You are on probation as of now. Emily recoiled, her face pale. Maya and Marcus just looked at each other. The line had not just been crossed. It had been obliterated. Marcus, Maya said, her voice shaking with a cold rage. Yeah, Marcus said. He picked up his phone, turned off the recording, and opened his call log. He tapped the first name. It is time. He put the phone to his ear. As Preston was barking into his radio and Patterson was directing other passengers to ignore the unpleasantness. Marcus' call connected. Hey, Dad, Marcus said, his voice suddenly casual. Bad time, you are on speaker. The shift in the cabin was instantaneous. Marcus's voice, though calm, cut through the tension like a surgeon's scalpel. For words. Hey, Dad, you are on speaker. Preston Clark froze, his radio halfway to his mouth. Ms. Patterson, who had been turning to offer Victoria Kensington a fawning apology, stopped mid-turn. Victoria herself, who had been basking in her victory, let her smug smile falter. Replaced by a look of confusion. Marcus' son. A man's voice, deep, resonant, and carrying an unmistakable aura of command, boomed from the phone speaker. It was quiet enough not to be a shout, but loud enough for the entire suite cabin to hear every word. What is wrong? Your ship should be preparing for departure. That is what we thought, Dad, Maya said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. But we are having a bit of a security issue. Isn't that right, Miss Patterson? Ms. Patterson's face, which had been flushed with anger, instantly drained of all color. She looked at the name on the boarding pass she still held. Thorne. She looked at the phone. She looked at the twins. The connection was made, and the resulting explosion in her brain was one of pure, unadulterated panic. She whispered. Preston Clark looked at her, his expression dumbfounded. What is it? Who is that? It is Elijah Thorne, you idiot, she hissed at him, her eyes wide with terror. Preston's mind blanked. Elijah Thorne, the founder, the CEO, the man whose face was on the cover of the magazine in every seat pocket. He looked at the twins, really looked at them. And for the first time he saw the resemblance, the strong jawline, the intelligent, intense eyes. They were not just passengers. They were owners. Dad, Marcus continued, his voice steady as he documented the scene. We were in the Zenith Lounge at Fort Lauderdale, and an attendant named Preston. He pointed his phone's camera directly at the man who flinched as if struck, accused us of having fraudulent tickets, and kicked us out. He what? Elijah Thorne's voice lost all its warmth, was now pure steel. Then Maya picked up, we boarded, and this passenger, Mrs. Victoria Kensington. She aimed the phone at Victoria, who looked like she had seen a ghost, started screaming that she didn't feel safe with us in the cabin and demanded we be moved. She called us trash. And Ms. Patterson, Marcus continued. The guest relations manager decided to back them up. They told us we were being moved to interior cabins 45 East and 45 F due to a ship security officer requirement. And when we refused, they called port police to have us forcibly removed from the ship. Preston is on the radio with them right now." A dead silence fell over the speakerphone. The entire cabin held its breath. The man in 3C was no longer trying to hide his filming. When Elijah Thorne spoke again, his voice was so cold it could have formed ice on the windows. "Patterson," he said. It wasn't a question, it was a summons. Ms. Patterson trembled, her body rigid with fear. Mr. Thorne, sir, there has been a terrible misunderstanding." "There is no misunderstanding," Elijah's voice snapped. "You have in the last 30 minutes violated nearly a dozen company policies, not to mention federal anti-discrimination laws. You have assaulted my children. You have allied yourself with a racist passenger against Zenith Circle members. You have attempted to falsify a security report to have them removed. My understanding is perfectly clear. Now you will listen to me, and you will listen very carefully." "Yes, sir," Patterson whispered, her knees visibly knocking. "First, you will tell your attendant to cancel the police call. Now, Preston, cancel it." Patterson shrieked. Preston fumbled with his radio, his hands shaking so badly he could barely press the button. "Gate, this is guest relations, Patterson. Disregard code 3. Disregard police request. It was a false alarm." "Second," Elijah continued, his voice relentless. "You will go to the bridge. You will tell Captain Anderson that this is Elijah Thorne and he is to hold this ship at the dock. He is not to move. He is not to close the main gangway. He is not to depart under any circumstances until my representative arrives. Do you understand me?" "Yes, sir. At once, sir." Patterson turned and practically ran, stumbling into the galley on her way to the bridge. "Third," Elijah said, his voice now directed at Preston. "You, Attendant Preston Clark." Preston looked at the phone in Marcus' hand as if it were a snake. "Sir, you will stay exactly where you are. You will not move. You will not speak to any other passengers. You will wait." Preston nodded dumbly, his face the color of ash. And finally, Elijah said, "Mrs. Victoria Kensington." Victoria let out a small, terrified squeak. "I have heard my daughter's testimony. I have seen your name on the passenger manifest. I am looking at your diamond titanium profile right now. You are a valued customer, Mrs. Kensington, but you are not more valued than human decency. You have harassed my children. You have created a hostile and discriminatory environment. You have made my other passengers unsafe. As of this moment, your status with Horizon Global is revoked. Your ticket for this voyage is canceled. You will be blacklisted from this cruise line and every one of our partners for life. My representative will be on board in a moment to escort you off this ship." Victoria's face crumpled. "You cannot do this." My husband. Do you know who my husband is? He is Charles Kensington. He'll ruin you. Your husband is one of our minority shareholders." "Mrs. Kensington," Elijah said, his voice bored. "He owns 0.4% of our stock. I, on the other hand, own 54%. You will gather your things or you will be removed." The sound of the main ship door, which Patterson had been so eager to close, reopening with a pneumatic hiss, echoed through the cabin. "Ah," Elijah Thorne said. "That will be him now. Marcus, Maya, I am hanging up. Mr. Blackwood is on site. I will see you in Southampton." "I love you. Love you too, Dad," Marcus said, and ended the call. He slipped the phone back into his pocket. The silence in the cabin was absolute. It was a vacuum, heavy and suffocating. Maya and Marcus Thorne sat back down in their plush suites. Maya picked up her textbook. Marcus opened his laptop. They did not look at the carnage around them. They did not need to. A moment later, 3 people entered the suite cabin. The first was Captain Anderson, his face grim. The second was the junior steward, Emily, who looked like she was about to be sick. The third was a tall, imposing man in a perfectly tailored 3-piece suit. He was bald, stone-faced, and radiating an energy of pure, undiluted corporate power. This was Harrison Blackwood, Executive Vice President of North American Operations for Horizon Global and Elijah Thorne's right-hand man. Blackwood did not look at the passengers. His eyes locked onto the three people standing in the aisle: Preston Clark, Victoria Kensington, and Ms. Patterson, who had just returned from the cockpit, her face streaked with tears. "Ms. Patterson, Mr. Clark," Blackwood said. His voice was a low baritone that commanded immediate silence. "Shh. You will surrender your Horizon Global ID badges and all company property to Captain Anderson. You are suspended indefinitely pending termination, Mr. Blackwood." "Please," Patterson began to sob. "Your employment is over, Ms. Patterson," Blackwood said, cutting her off. "You are trespassing on company property." Captain Anderson, his face a mask of thunder, stepped forward. "Hand them over now." Preston, his body shaking, unclipped his badge. Patterson, sobbing uncontrollably, did the same. "You have 5 minutes to clear your lockers. Then you will be escorted from the port. You are not to contact any other crew." And Mrs. Kensington, Blackwood said, turning to her. Victoria had shrunk into her cashmere wrap. "As you were informed by Mr. Thorne, your carriage contract has been terminated. Please gather your belongings. An agent is waiting at the door to escort you back to the terminal." This is unbelievable," Victoria stammered, her voice thick with rage and fear. "You will be hearing from my lawyers." "This is assault. This, Mrs. Kensington," Blackwood said, taking a small, almost unnoticeable digital audio recorder from his pocket and clicking it off, "is a private property matter. You violated the passenger conduct code, which you agreed to when you purchased your ticket. You engaged in discriminatory and hateful harassment of other passengers. We have at least 4 video recordings from other passengers. The bridge voice, recorder audio from the guest relations manager's call to the gate, and a full recording from Mr. Thorne's own device. Your lawyers will be hearing from ours. Now get off this ship." His voice was not raised, but it was the most terrifying sound Victoria Kensington had ever heard. Defeated, humiliated, and utterly broken, she grabbed her purse and her wrap and stumbled down the aisle past the stunned faces of the other passengers and off the ship. The real-life karma had just begun. The removal of Victoria Kensington was swift and brutal. A Horizon Global Ground Ops manager, a stern woman with a clipboard, met her at the door, took her by the elbow, and guided her off the gangway without a word. The cabin was left in the aftermath, a stunned silence hanging over the luxurious suites. The other passengers, who had been openly filming, slowly lowered their phones, their expressions a mixture of shock, awe, and perhaps a little fear. Mr. Blackwood, the EVP, stood in the center of the cabin, his presence dominating the space. He turned his attention to the 2 remaining crew members, Preston Clark and Ms. Patterson. They were no longer crew. They were just 2 people in uniforms. They no longer had a right to wear, their faces pale and streaked. Captain Blackwood said to the officer, "Please escort Mr. Clark and Ms. Patterson to the terminal. Ensure their access is revoked before you return to the bridge. With pleasure." Captain Anderson said, his voice gravelly with disgust. He jerked his head. "This way now." Preston Clark, who 15 minutes ago had been a petty tyrant ruling his small kingdom, now looked like a child. He was trembling, his eyes darting around, looking for an escape that didn't exist. "But my things will be mailed to you," Blackwood said dismissively. "You are no longer welcome on this ship." Patterson let out a quiet wail as the captain gestured firmly. The 2 disgraced crew members began the walk of shame. Past the twins they had tried to humiliate, past the passengers they had tried to impress. Every eye was on them. It was a humiliation far more profound than being kicked out of a lounge. It was the public, undeniable, and permanent end of their careers. As they disappeared up the gangway, the main cabin door closed with a definitive, heavy thud. The tension, however, did not immediately dissipate. The cabin was still full of people who had just witnessed a raw display of corporate power. Mr. Blackwood stood for a moment, adjusting his waistcoat. Then he turned to the passengers. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, his voice now returning to a professional, calm tone. On behalf of Horizon Global, I must offer our deepest and most sincere apologies for the disturbance you have just witnessed. What you saw was a failure of our training, a failure of our trust, and a failure of simple human decency on the part of those individuals. It is not what Horizon Global stands for, and it will not be tolerated. He then walked directly to the junior steward, Emily, who was still standing by the galley, her face white with shock. "You," Blackwood said, his voice softening slightly. "Your name is Emily Dot." "Yes, yes, sir. Emily Carter. My records show you attempted to intervene. My records show Miss Patterson threatened your job and placed you on probation. I knew who they were, sir. The Zenith Circle." "I tried to tell her you did more than that," Blackwood said. "You did the right thing when your superiors were doing the wrong one. You upheld the company's values while your manager was destroying them." He looked at the other crew members, 2 attendants who had been cowering in the galley. "As of this moment, Ms. Carter, you are the guest relations manager for this voyage." Emily's jaw dropped. "Sir, I am not. I do not have the training. You have the character. That is what matters today. The service can be learned. Integrity, it seems, cannot," Blackwood said. "We are bringing on a replacement manager from the next ship to assist you, but you will be the lead. And when you land in Southampton, a representative from my office will meet you. We will be discussing your promotion to a permanent manager position. And your probation is obviously lifted." Emily's eyes filled with tears, but these were of relief, not terror. "Thank you, sir." "Thank you. Do not thank me. You earned it. Now please prepare the cabin for departure. We are already late." "Yes, sir," Emily said, a new confidence settling on her. She wiped her eyes, straightened her uniform, and turned to the other attendants. "All right, let's get pre-departure beverages out. Apologize to every passenger for the delay. I will be right back." Finally, Mr. Blackwood turned to Maya and Marcus. The entire cabin was quiet, watching this final interaction. He walked to their suites, and to the shock of everyone, he dipped his head in a slight formal bow. "Mr. Thorne." "Ms. Thorne," he said, his voice full of genuine remorse. "I cannot find the words to express my apology. Or your father's." "It is not your fault, Harrison," Maya said, finally closing her textbook. She had known Mr. Blackwood since she was a child. He was practically an uncle. "It is my fault," Blackwood said, his face grim. "I am responsible for all North American operations. This happened on my watch. The training I implemented failed. The protocols I put in place were ignored. I have failed you, and I have failed your father." "No," Marcus said, speaking up. He closed his laptop. "What failed was their character. You cannot train prejudice out of people who do not want to let it go." Preston knew. He saw the red shield on the system. He knew Zenith Circle was a high-level flag. He chose to ignore it because he wanted to impress Mrs. Kensington. His choice will cost him, Blackwood assured them. His pension is forfeit. Ms. Patterson's career is over. And as for Mrs. Kensington, her husband's office has already called. He was explosive until I sent him the video file Marcus had been recording. The call ended very quickly. "I do not believe you will be hearing from Mr. Kensington's lawyers." "Good," Maya said, her voice hard. "We have a new crew coming on board now to bring us to minimums. We will be departing in 10 minutes. Is there anything at all I can do for you?" Marcus looked at Maya, then back at Blackwood. "Yes, actually. Emily, the steward you promoted. We want to make sure she is taken care of, not just a promotion. We want you to personally mentor her. She is the only one in that uniform who acted like a human being." Blackwood nodded, a small, proud smile touching his lips. "Consider it done. I will take her under my wing personally. And Harrison," Maya added, "find that man. 3C. She gestured to the passenger who had been filming. "Comp his ticket and get his video. I want it sent to every single HR manager in the Horizon Global system. This is a training video now." The man in 3C looked up, startled, then nodded. "An excellent, if brutal idea, Ms. Thorne," Blackwood said. "It will be done." He bowed again. "Now, please try to have a restful voyage. Your father is, let's just say, he is eagerly awaiting your arrival." With that, Mr. Blackwood strode off the ship. A new professional-looking crew, led by a silver-haired manager, came on board, greeting the now-promoted Emily with smiles. The ship door was sealed. The safety video began to play as the ship finally pushed back from the dock nearly an hour late. The atmosphere in the suite cabin was one of surreal calm. The drama was over. The justice had been swift. Maya leaned back in her massive seat, finally allowing the tension to drain from her shoulders. "Well," she whispered to Marcus in the next suite. "That was a morning. It was," Marcus replied, already typing furiously on his laptop. "What are you doing now?" "The fight is over." "It is not over," Marcus said, not looking up. "I am drafting the proposal for the new employee-wide anti-bias training program. Dad will want to see it before we land. And I am naming it the HG-100 protocol." Maya smiled. The fight wasn't over. It was just getting started. The transatlantic crossing to Southampton was, after the explosive start, almost unnaturally smooth. The new ship crew, led by the experienced manager and the newly promoted shell-shocked Emily, was the model of perfection. They were attentive without being intrusive, apologetic without being fawning. The other passengers in the suite deck, having witnessed the full-scale corporate execution, were on their best behavior. There were no petty demands, no raised voices. It was perhaps the most polite transatlantic voyage in Horizon Global history. Maya and Marcus were treated with a quiet, profound respect. Emily herself took care of their service, her hands still trembling slightly as she poured their drinks. But her eyes filled with a new steely resolve. "Mr. Thorne? Ms. Thorne? I just want to say thank you," she murmured as she served Maya her meal. A pan-seared halibut that Maya had no appetite for. "For what?" Maya asked, putting down her fork. "You are the one who stood up. You could have just stayed quiet, but you d-den singled quotes e.my ... My grandmother," Emily said, her voice low. She was a steward in the 70s. The stories she told me about what she had to put up with, not just as a woman, but as a black woman. When I saw what Preston and Ms. Patterson were doing, I couldn't." Maya and Marcus locked eyes. This new piece of information recontextualized Emily's bravery. It wasn't just a spur-of-a-moment act. It was a legacy. "Well," Marcus said, pausing his work on the new training protocol, "your grandmother would be very proud of you today, Emily." "Thank you, sir." "And stop calling us sir and ma'am. We are Maya and Marcus. We are going to be seeing a lot more of you, I think." Emily smiled. A real, radiant smile. And for the first time, the terror in her eyes was replaced by genuine hope. "I would like that. Now, can I please get you anything else? A dessert? Some cheese?" "I will take some of that sticky toffee pudding," Marcus said. "I think I have earned it." While the ship crossed the Atlantic, the story was already exploding on the ground. The man in 3C, a tech blogger named David Chen, had taken Mr. Blackwood's offer of a comp, but he had also, as soon as the ship's satellite Wi-Fi kicked in, uploaded his video. He didn't upload it to his blog. He sent it to an internal Horizon Global whistleblower address he'd found online with the subject line, "For Elijah Thorne, discrimination on HG-100. The video, combined with Marcus's own recordings, which he had already uploaded to the family's private server, was a nuclear bomb. By the time they were sailing past Ireland, the news had been disseminated by Elijah Thorne himself to the entire Horizon Global Executive Board. The order was clear: fix this. Fix it now. Fix it permanently. The first to feel the hard karma were, of course, Preston and Patterson. They had been escorted from Fort Lauderdale by Port Authority police, not arrested but trespassed from the property. A permanent mark on their airport and seaport employment records. They would never work for another cruise line at Fort Lauderdale, or likely any other major port again. But the karma was just getting started. Preston Clark, it turned out, lived in a luxury high-rise in Long Island City, a lifestyle far beyond his means. An immediate internal audit triggered by his firing revealed he had been running a side hustle. He would upgrade attractive passengers to business or suites in exchange for cash, pocketing the money and logging it as a discretionary crew upgrade. He was also stealing cases of the high-end champagne and reselling them. He wasn't just a racist, he was a common thief. By the time HG 100 docked, there was a warrant out for his arrest for felony theft and wire fraud. Ms. Patterson's fate was less criminal, but just as devastating. She was a 25-year veteran of the company. She had been with the company since it was Sterling Cargo. She had known Elijah Thorne when he was just a pilot. Her betrayal, in his eyes, was 1,000 times worse than Preston's. The investigation found a long-documented history of passenger profiling. She had disproportionately targeted minority passengers for random security checks, dress code violations, and cabin reassignments, always siding with complaining white passengers. She wasn't just placating a VIP. She was a serial abuser of her power. Her termination was logged as gross misconduct and discriminatory harassment, a non-rehirable status that effectively ended her career in aviation and maritime industries. Her 25-year pension and her travel benefits, which she had been planning to use for her retirement in 6 months, were voided. But the hardest, most real-life karma was reserved for Victoria Kensington. When she was escorted from the ship, she immediately called her husband, Charles Kensington, screaming for his lawyers. Charles, a famously aggressive corporate lawyer, had indeed called Elijah Thorne, threatening a lawsuit that would reduce his little cruise line to a puddle jumper. That was when Elijah, as Blackwood had mentioned, emailed him the 3-minute video from Marcus's phone. The video showed Victoria in crystal clear 4K screaming, "I do not feel safe," and "take out the trash." It showed her pointing. It showed her smug, satisfied smile as Preston called the police. Charles Kensington's bravado evaporated. He was not a fool. He knew what he was seeing. This wasn't a he said, she said disagreement. This was a public relations nightmare that could and would destroy him. His wife's behavior wasn't just rude. It was a textbook example of the kind of overt racism that sent stocks plummeting and forced CEOs to resign. He was on the board of 3 different charitable foundations. His firm was in the middle of a massive public merger. His wife, behaving like a 1950s segregationist, could tank it all. The phone call he made back to Elijah Thorne was reportedly one of the most groveling apologies in corporate history. But Elijah Thorne was not in a forgiving mood. He accepted the apology, but not the premise. The lifetime ban on Victoria Kensington would stand. When Victoria got home to her Connecticut mansion, her husband was waiting. The fight, according to their household staff, was monumental. She hadn't just embarrassed him. She had threatened his empire. She was, he informed her, no longer welcome on his corporate jet. Her credit cards tied to his accounts were frozen. She was, for the first time in her life, grounded. She was a social pariah. The video, though not released publicly by Horizon Global, was leaked by another passenger within 24 hours. By the end of the week, Victoria Kensington was that woman from the ship. She was asked to resign from her charity boards. Her friends stopped answering her calls. Her real-life karma was not a single event. It was a slow, agonizing social death built from the bricks of her own prejudice. Upon docking at Southampton, Captain Anderson held all passengers so Maya and Marcus could deplane first. Their father, Elijah Thorne, was waiting for them in the gangway. He bypassed the usual greetings and immediately embraced his children, his voice thick with emotion as he told them how proud he was of their strength and composure. He quickly explained the immediate fallout. He had broadcast the entire incident live to the Horizon Global Board meeting. The consequences were swift. The entire Fort Lauderdale-based guest relations pool was grounded for retraining, and the twins. HG 100 protocol was being adopted as the new company Bible. Elijah confirmed the hard karma. Preston was facing criminal charges. Patterson's career was over, and she faced civil suits. And Victoria Kensington's scandal was already tanking her husband's business merger. The family then left the terminal together, united and victorious. 1 year later, the Horizon Zenith Lounge at Fort Lauderdale bore a new bronze plaque, the Thorne Standard of Service. Written by Maya and Marcus, it guaranteed every passenger the right to travel with dignity with zero tolerance for discrimination. The new culture was immediately tested when a high-status passenger complained about a black military family. The attendant, trained on the new HG-100 protocol, refused to move the family. Instead, he offered to move the complaining passenger who, seeing the new policy, backed down. The ripple effect was complete. Maya and Marcus were on the board of directors. Sarah Jennings, Emily Carter, the brave junior steward, was on a full company scholarship to Maritime Officer School. The villains had met their hard karma. Preston was in prison for theft. Patterson was working in retail. And Victoria Kensington was divorced. Her social status evaporated. As the twins sat in the lounge, the military father approached them. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "This is the first time I have ever felt truly welcome." Maya and Marcus understood. They hadn't just won a fight. They had rebuilt the foundation, and that is the story of Maya and Marcus Thorne. They walked onto that ship as passengers and walked off as agents of change. This story is a powerful reminder that prejudice isn't just about overt hate. It's about the silent assumptions, the snobbery, and the people in power who choose to look the other way. The crew of HG-100 thought they were just moving to passengers. They didn't realize they were triggering a revolution. Real-life karma isn't always as fast as a phone call to the CEO. But this story shows us that integrity will always win in the end. The people who abused their power lost everything. And the one person who showed courage and decency was rewarded. What did you think of the crew's actions? What would you have done if you were a passenger in that cabin? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. And if you enjoyed this story of justice and karma, please hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to see it, and be sure to subscribe to our channel for more real-life stories. We have new videos dropping every day. Thanks for listening.